A couple of months back I made these concrete dragon fruit posts, a solution that should last my lifetime. What I didn't do was make a top for the post that the dragon fruit could grow and hang out over. This afternoon I'm going to fix that. For this project I'll be using my angle grinder, drill, PVC cement primer and glue, 150mm PVC pipe, and an end cap to put on the end of that pipe as a lid, and some rebar or reinforcement bar used for reinforcing concrete. This rebar here is 12mm and I'll be using two 1.8 meter sections. I'm working with my dad on this project because together we've got to do quite a few of these tops. This one's a prototype, so after this one we're hoping they'll speed up a little bit, but this will be the first one just to see if it works. We started by bending 45 centimeter sections out of one of the 1.8 meter pieces of rebar. Now if you do your maths, 45 times 4 is 1.8 meters, and so by bending it we were able to make a square. This will be the eventual frame that the dragon fruit will hang out over. Now my dad can weld, I cannot, so he's doing the welding here. I'm actually going to use this project to teach myself how to weld, but for the prototype, let's not risk it, he did the welding. And so we started by welding this 45 centimeter sided square. Once we had that, that was the main frame that the dragon fruit will hang out over. Then I went and I cut basically two cross sections that'll go, or a cross that'll go through the pipe, and this will support that frame you just saw. So I've just cut these 50 centimeters or 500mm long to give myself a bit of excess to work through. And as you can see, there's our square and our two center sections, and they'll cross over through the pipe like so. Obviously they can't go through each other, so one of the pieces needs a slight bend just so they can miss each other as they cross through the pipe. Pipe itself I cut to 300mm or 30 centimeters long, and here I'm priming the cap and then I'll glue it onto the pipe. If you remember back when I made my post, I actually used 150mm PVC pipe as the mold, so this pipe slots straight over the top of those posts, or should, and so this pipe will actually function as a very tight fitting lid on top of the post. The posts, to be honest, are excessive and perhaps a little over engineered, but they should last a very long time. Exposed rebar on the other hand may not, and so doing my top frame in this way, a lid that slips over the top of the post, actually allows me to change the top if the need ever arises, whether it be through the rebar failing due to rust or a tree falling on it or whatever. So once the lid's glued on, I drilled four 12mm holes in the four different directions just under the lid. Forgot to film that bit, but you can see how we push the rebar through that center of the pipe and it supports the frame. Now you can maybe understand why we had to bend one of the pieces of rebar so they didn't hit each other where they crossed through. It was time to weld the frame onto the rebar, and again, Dad's the guy for that part. It's the cross through the middle that actually supports the frame and the eventual weight of the dragon fruit, so these welds don't need to be super strong. They're basically slightly heavier duty tack welds just to stop that frame from moving about on top of the cross. This is why I cut those cross pieces an extra 5 centimeters or 50mm each. It just gives you working room when we had to weld them together. Then I just go back and I cut off the excess that hangs out and leaves it with a cleaner finish. I also use the grinder to grind any sharp edges. Now underneath you can see that cross goes through the middle. The plan was always to fill that to above the rebar when it's upside down with concrete, and so I just mixed up a small batch of concrete, tipped it in, and that should enable the rebar to hold its position really strongly and support the eventual weight of the dragon fruit. You can imagine this small section of concrete is actually going to sit on top of the post when this is upside down on top, and here I am tapping it to get out any air bubbles and leave a nice smooth finish inside the lid. I tidied up the grinds and welds with a bit of zinc gal paint. If you know your chemistry, the zinc acts as a bit of a sacrificial anode and should help this steel last a little bit longer. In reality, it's a very thin layer. This won't last long, it'll wear off very quickly. So this is more for my peace of mind, a bit of a placebo, but hey, I already had some there, so why not use it? I cut some sections of plain garden hose and slid it lengthways to make a bit of a protective sleeve over the Rio where the dragon fruit could hang out over, offering a little bit of protection to the dragon fruit so the Rio wouldn't dig into it. Now is it really something you need? I'm not quite sure, but it wasn't a big deal for me to put it on anyway. One of the dragon fruit posts has already, the cultivar, I believe this one's Trish, grew really quickly and it's already reached the top, so it's the first recipient of the prototype post topper. It actually took some pruning to help it fit through the gaps in the top, but it was a really neat fit. I'm very happy with the way these tops fit on the post, and they look quite nice. And if you didn't like the look, it doesn't really matter, because soon enough this entire frame will be covered with dragon fruit hanging out and over, Sideshow Bob style. Looks like a bit like an umbrella. So overall, at this stage, I'm very happy with the design. The cost was right, the amount of effort required wasn't a big deal, and so I've now just got to do the other ones for my other posts, and during that process learn how to weld. Hope you found this useful. Please comment below if you've got any further ideas about something I could have done differently, or to help others who might read the comments below. If you did find the video useful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.